They thought it would be just another polite royal appearance, a smiling prince, a polished interview, a few soft questions
Good
to
evening. We
remind the
interrupt this
world of his
program with
charm.
breaking
But
news.
when Prince Harry walked into NBC's Today Show studio and sat across from Savannah Guthrie, the tone shifted before a single
I'm
camera
time.
roll. At first glance, it seemed routine. Lights glowed, crew whispered, Savannah straightened her notes, but Harry wasn't at ease. He scanned the studio with restless eyes, shoulders squared, as if entering enemy territory rather than a friendly morning show. He had arrived early, suited in navy, his security team moving like shadows behind him. His PR handler clutched a clipboard, whispering reminders of what not to say. And yet, beneath the carefully crafted image, tension flickered. When the countdown ended, Savannah welcomed him warmly. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness." His reply cut sharp. "Just Harry is fine." From that moment forward, nothing about the interview would be fine. What began as promotion for a mental health project spiraled into one of the most shocking on air clashes in recent memory. A prince unraveled in real time, a journalist refused to bow, and millions of viewers witnessed a live confrontation that no royal title could shield. This was not just another interview. This was the day Prince Harry walked into Studio 1A and walked out humiliated. The Today Show studio in Rockefeller Plaza was alive with its usual controlled chaos. Technicians adjusted light rigs until every corner of the stage glowed with perfect clarity. Producers whispered into earpieces, their voices a constant low hum behind the glass of the control room. Interns carried mugs of steaming coffee past rolling cameras, while stagehands tugged on cables and adjusted microphones. On the surface, it was the same ordinary rhythm of morning television, but everyone could feel it, the static in the air, the unusual edge that no one wanted to name. Prince Harry was in the building. He had arrived 15 minutes early, a decision that already set him apart. Most celebrity guests breezed in with seconds to spare, not Harry. His motorcade pulled up to the private entrance, and before the black SUV's doors even opened, security fanned out like soldiers taking a formation. He emerged sharply dressed, a tailored navy suit pressed to perfection, the Windsor crestpin conspicuously absent from his lapel. His expression was carefully neutral, chin up, lips pressed, but his eyes darted across the hallway as though he expected an ambush. Behind him, his personal PR handler matched his steps. A young woman with a headset, clipboard tucked under her arm, and urgency in her voice, she whispered the day's script. "Stick to the project. Highlight veterans. No off-topic answers. Avoid Megan." She repeated it like a mantra. Harry nodded, but his glances toward the cameras tucked into corners betrayed irritation. This wasn't Buckingham Palace, where he controlled the optics. This was American media territory, unpredictable, unsparing. Inside Studio 1A, Savannah Guthrie was preparing in her own way, calmly, methodically. She straightened her blazer in the mirror, smoothed her hair, and scanned her cards. She had interviewed presidents, prime ministers, and CEOs under fire. Royals were no exception. She knew her opening lines by heart, but carried an arsenal of follow-up questions, carefully sharpened, not to wound, but to cut through rehearsed answers. 5 minutes, a producer called out. The floor manager gestured toward the interview chairs, two sleek white seats angled perfectly for cameras. Savannah exhaled once, then walked across the floor with her signature composure. Harry entered moments later, the studio lights catching the polished gleam of his suit. Savannah greeted him with a warm smile. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness." His reply was quick, clipped. "Just Harry's fine." A silence stretched. Savannah caught the subtext instantly. The message wasn't only for her, it was for the millions watching. He would not be addressed as a royal. He wanted this interview to strip away the crown, or at least appear to. Savannah adjusted without missing a beat. "Of course," she said, her smile unwavering. "Shall we?" They sat. The crew gave a final countdown. Cameras rolled, and in that charged silence between the blink of the red recording light and Savannah's first words, the balance of control shifted. One was determined to tell his truth, the other was prepared to test it. No one in that studio yet knew how far it would go or how completely the facade would break. The red recording light blinked alive, and millions of households across America found themselves staring at the image of Prince Harry seated beside Savannah Guthrie. On the surface, it looked no different from any other celebrity interview. Two professionals exchanging greetings, the iconic Today Show logo glowing warmly in the background, and the familiar cadence of live television carrying the illusion of calm. But beneath the gloss of stage lights, tension simmered. Savannah began exactly as expected, graciously. Harry, thank you for being here with us this morning. We know your schedule is packed, and we're honored you've taken the time. He nodded politely. His hands rested on his knees, fingers laced too tightly. Thank you for having me. The conversation opened with neutral ground, his ongoing charity work, the veterans' initiatives that had brought him to New York. He spoke smoothly, voice steady, eyes forward. It was practiced, polished, the language of a man trained for years to navigate microphones and press flashes. For a moment, viewers might have thought this would remain a polite, uncontroversial exchange. But Savannah wasn't there just to deliver pleasantries. She leaned in slightly, her tone soft, her words deceptively simple. You've spoken often about the importance of service, about building a life of purpose outside of tradition. Do you feel that stepping away from royal duties gave you the freedom to define that for yourself? The shift was subtle but immediate. Harry's shoulders stiffened, his jaw tightened. He blinked once, twice before answering. I've said before that stepping back was about protecting my family. It wasn't about freedom. It was about survival. Savannah let the pause linger. She could feel the room change. Crew members behind the cameras glanced up, sensing the first ripple of tension. She pressed gently. When you say survival, Harry, do you mean emotional survival? Or was it something more? For the briefest moment, a flicker of irritation crossed his face. His PR handler, watching just out of frame, shifted uncomfortably. Harry exhaled, adjusting his tie. Both. My wife and I faced pressures most people cannot imagine. Leaving was the only way forward. Savannah nodded, respectful but unrelenting. There are those who would say, though, that with privilege comes duty, that millions look at the institution as more than a family, but a symbol. Do you regret the way it unfolded? The question cut sharper than expected. His answer came quickly, too quickly. No, I regret nothing. He was firm, final, but the tremor in his voice betrayed something else, perhaps anger, perhaps pain. Savannah didn't push further. Not yet. She shifted back to safer ground, briefly returning to his book, his foundation. But the tension had been set. A line had been drawn. The interview, just minutes old, was no longer about projects or polished sound bites. It was about truth, control, and the invisible weight Harry carried into that chair. Every viewer watching sensed it too. Something deeper was about to surface. It happened faster than anyone expected. One question, measured, deliberate, unavoidable, tipped the balance. Savannah's eyes held steady on Harry as she asked, her voice calm but unmistakably direct. Harry, critics say your decision to step away wasn't just about survival. They say it was betrayal, that you abandoned not only duty but family. How do you respond to that? The air in the studio thickened. Even through television screens, millions of viewers leaned closer, sensing the weight of the moment. Harry's lips pressed into a thin line before he spoke. His voice carried an edge that had been absent until now. Betrayal? He repeated the word slowly, as if testing its bitterness. What I did was protect my wife, protect my children. If protecting them makes me a traitor to people who've never walked a day in my shoes, then so be it. Savannah didn't flinch. But your own father, your brother, they've expressed their pain publicly. Do you ever worry that in defending one family you've fractured another beyond repair? The question landed like a strike. Harry's composure cracked. His cheeks flushed. He leaned forward, eyes sharp, his accent hardening with anger. Do you have any idea what it's like? To watch your wife hounded to the brink? To beg for help and be told to endure it silently because appearances matter more than lives? Do you know what that does to a man? Gauche. The studio went still. No one breathed. Savannah's face remained calm, though her knuckles tightened on the cue cards in her lap. She asked, quietly now, so you're saying the monarchy valued its image more than your safety? Harry slammed back without hesitation. I'm saying the monarchy valued its image more than my wife's life, more than my child's safety, and that is something I will never forgive. The words rang through the studio like a bell struck too hard. Behind the cameras, a producer buried his face in his hands. This was no longer an interview, it was an eruption. Savannah allowed the silence to hang. It was a silence that carried more weight than any follow-up could. The prince's voice shook, but it was not weakness, it was fury finally unleashed after years of containment. Viewers at home were transfixed. Some sympathized, nodding at the raw pain spilling from a man long trapped by tradition. Others frowned, uncomfortable at the open condemnation of family on live American television. Savannah finally spoke, her words softer than before. That is something no one has ever heard you say out loud. Harry leaned back, exhaling hard, as though the words had burned him on their way out. He rubbed his hands over his face, the mask of composure fully shattered. The interview had changed. It was no longer about charity projects or public image. It was about truth unfiltered, unrestrained, and unforgettable. When the words finally left Harry's mouth, the room fell into an almost sacred stillness. It wasn't the silence of a polite interview pause, it was the silence of a bomb just detonated, smoke still hanging in the air. Savannah sat across from him, her expression unreadable, though her eyes betrayed the awareness of what had just occurred. This was history in real time. A prince, on live television, accusing the monarchy itself of valuing image over human life. It was more than a revelation, it was an indictment. The producers in the control room exchanged panicked whispers, trying to decide whether to cut to commercial, but no one dared break the moment. Every second of Harry's trembling voice, every flicker of emotion across his face was too important to lose. At home, living rooms across America and beyond were electric. Some viewers clutched their mouths, shocked at the bluntness. Others whispered to one another, did he really just say that? Social media exploded instantly. Clips spread within minutes. Hashtags trended worldwide before the segment even finished airing. For supporters, Harry had finally said what needed to be said, that tradition had turned toxic and silence nearly killed the people he loved. For critics, it was confirmation of their deepest suspicions that Harry was willing to burn bridges publicly, no matter the collateral damage. Back in the studio, Savannah allowed the silence to linger before carefully drawing the interview to a close. She did not soften what had happened. She did not try to cover it with a scripted outro. Instead, her words were measured. Prince Harry, thank you for speaking with us today. It was not just a thank you. It was an acknowledgement of risk, of bravery, and of consequences still unknown. Harry gave a small nod, his face pale and drained. The fire of the moment had passed, leaving behind exhaustion. His hand rested briefly against his wedding ring, a silent reminder of the family for whom he had just gone to war with words. When the cameras finally cut, the studio exhaled as though the air had been held for far too long. Staff shuffled, voices returned, but the weight of what had been said clung to the room like smoke that refused to clear. The interview would dominate headlines for weeks. Commentators on every network replayed the clip, dissecting every syllable, every flicker of expression. Royal correspondents spoke of irreparable damage. Advocates for mental health and privacy hailed it as a breakthrough moment. But for Harry himself, the aftermath was quieter, more personal. He had crossed a threshold that could not be undone. Once words like those are spoken aloud, there is no going back. Somewhere, across the ocean, his family would hear them. Reactions would vary: anger, disappointment, perhaps even sorrow. But the truth was out, and truth once freed cannot be caged again. The legacy of that morning would not be measured in ratings or trending hashtags alone. It would be remembered as the moment when a prince, once bound by tradition, chose truth over silence. A choice that would either pave the way for understanding or deepen a divide that may never heal. And so, as the credits rolled and the studio lights dimmed, one fact lingered in every viewer's mind. They had just witnessed history, not neatly scripted or carefully approved, but raw, human, and irreversible. What you've just witnessed was not just an interview, it was a turning point, a moment where silence shattered and truth spilled into the open no matter the cost. Prince Harry's words will echo for years to come, whether you see him as a whistleblower, a rebel, or a man simply trying to protect his family. One truth remains undeniable. History is shaped not by those who stay silent, but by those who dare to speak. Moments like this remind us why stories matter, why voices, even when trembling, can break chains that centuries of tradition have kept locked. Here at No Return, we uncover the stories. The world can't look away from moments that change everything, moments where there is no turning back. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you question, don't let it end here. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe to No Return for more untold stories of truth, conflict, and consequence. Because some moments in history leave us forever changed. And once you've heard them, there is no return.